Heath from pickinglessons.com, Bluegrass Licks Volume 6. This is a follow-up lesson in the key of C. Volume 5 is in the key of C. This is also in the key of C. This time we're going to cover the 1, 4, 5 and 6 minor chords. So that's your C, F, G and A minor. There's a whole bunch of licks through that example solo we're going to pull apart and analyze as we go through. We've got the major blues scale, the extended pattern we're going to have a look at, and we have 3 variations of the A minor arpeggio, which covers the triads as well. We'll cover all that as part of this lesson. In a moment, we're going to take a look at the first 4 measures of the example solo here in this video, and we might have a look at that major blues scale as well, because that features pretty heavily in those first 4 measures. If you head to pickinglessons.com, you can grab yourself a copy of this tablature that we're working through. It has the solo and all the scales and arpeggios in it. In the member section, we'll continue this lesson. We'll learn and break down all these licks that we have in this example, and we'll cover the arpeggios as well. Now, to get us going, we're going to have a look at these first 4 bars of the solo, but before we do that, let's cover this scale, because this scale really sets us up for what's happening through the first 4 measures. So we're going to learn the major blues scale and in an extended pattern form. So basically we're going to be moving along and up the neck as we go. The major blues scale is essentially the major pentatonic with the flat 3 in there. So there's your flat 3, there's your 3, your 5 and your 6. So the notes or the scale tones that we use are the 1, the 2, the flat 3, the 3, the 5 and the 6. And this scale, if we keep going through, it just repeats itself, which is really great. These types of scales where we basically have a 1 octave pattern, and then that repeats as we shift up the neck. It's a really easy scale to remember. So with the first finger sliding, and then second and third, and then 1 and 3rd. Then we sort of start again. First finger slides, first and third. That second string obviously is tuned different, so we have to modify the pattern. Then continuing on, we're up to the neck there. So we're finishing on that E, the major 3rd. So the licks we're about to learn really lean on that scale heavily. You can certainly practice it playing backwards as well. Slide that first finger. Yeah, so that's the major blues scale in the extended pattern form. So we could play that all in one position, but this one gets us up the neck. It's a nice way of getting some movement up the neck. I'd suggest really memorizing that scale, because these licks we're about to play heavily lean on that. So I'll show you the example we're about to learn. And that gets us to the end of the 4th measure. We're playing this over the C and the A minor chords. So initially we have this run up. Now, we don't use all the notes from a scale all the time, so we haven't used the flat 3 there in this passage, but essentially we've just moved up the scale and back slightly. Yeah? And then when we hit the second measure, we kind of continue through the scale. So the first 2 bars are really just that plain scale, pretty much. A little bit of back and forth movement. It's always great to be able to extend and lengthen what you're doing. So we're not just playing the straight scale, yeah? We're back and forth, changing the rhythm structure and all that kind of stuff. There's our first 2 bars. Now, as we move through, we're going to continue along through that scale essentially. And we kind of hit this triad position. There's a C. The C and the A minor are very, very closely related. There's your A minor triad, there's your C triad. So you can kind of blend a bit of both, and that's what we're doing here. So as we hit that flat 3, yeah, the flat 3 actually becomes the flat 5 against the A minor. So that's pretty interesting from a theory point of view. That's what I mean. Everything's kind of closely related, particularly between the 1 and the 6, because they're relative to each other. So we have this slide up to the C, which is inside that A minor triad. And then finishing off with this lick here. So let's just break that down. Once we hit that 3rd measure, we're sliding in from fret 8. And so we've just cruised our way through that extended scale still. Then we hit this double stop here. Yeah, which takes us into the A minor, back out again. Yeah, into the triad there. And that's passing down to the C there as we're going to move on to the next chord and the next measure. So third finger on the slide is kind of nice. So as we come through from the beginning, we're starting off on the C. We're leaning very heavily against the scale, but also the tones of the chords. So we've chatted in these lessons about the arpeggios and triads and the chord tones. So the C, the E, and the G are the chord tones here in this part of the scale. Second measure. That last note, there's a passing note. There's the root note C. As we move up into the A minor, yeah, we're highlighting that C against the A minor chord. Really leaning on the scale to move us through. Double stop with that hammer on in there. Slide back down to the C, and that's going to get us onto the next ideas that come through for the F chord. Let's just have a slow once through the 4 bars just to finish this off. So 2, 3, 4. So the C chord, C, E, and G, the A minor, A, C, and E. So the C and E are in common, so pretty much majority of the time your C licks are going to work over the A minor. Yeah, so approaching the A minor doesn't have to be too difficult because we can kind of lean on these C major ideas, and that works because of the relationship between the 2 chords. But of course, understanding the arpeggio for the A minor and the triad is important, and we will look at that in the next part of the lesson. Okay, pickinglessons.com. Head on over and you can grab yourself this tablature, but the members section there, we will continue breaking down these lick ideas and we'll analyse what's happening there. Plus, we'll have a look at the arpeggios and triads for the A minor specifically as well. So pickinglessons.com. I'll see you there.